Hello, everyone. I am Surges Lin. It is nice to meet everyone across the Pacific Ocean in this way. I am personally located in Taiwan, and I am going to introduce you to a few things today. A lot of times, I do some consulting for different companies. Today, I am going to talk about how to run small, micro, and medium sized enterprises. Mainly, we'll be talking about how to build your team and how to manage your risks. So, why are we going to talk about building a team? Because no matter how big your company is, the basis of success is building the right team and managing your risks. And that would be part of how you should run your business. I would like to tell you a little story in the beginning of this lesson today. There's an ancient Chinese tale. There were two kings, and they were going to go on a race. They were trying to see who raised better horses. For the race, each king has had 3 horses joining the race. They know that they have decent horses on both sides. After the race started, the 3 horses from one side have won on every single race. The other king was upset. How can he possibly have all 3 horses led lost? One of the king's advisors told the king, "Don't worry, I have a way." Since now they actually know out of the 3 horses from the other side which one is the strongest, which one is weaker, and which one was the weakest. So they told him, let's have a race again. So for this race, they used their weakest horse to go against their strongest horse. So during the first race, they've lost. But when they went against the second horse, they used their strongest horse and they've won. And then during the third race, they used the middle horse, to go against their weakest horse, and they've won again. So even though they lost the first one, they won the next 2 rounds. So how were they able to win with 2-1? This because they know where their advantages are. They also know where their shortcomings are. Therefore, if you're running your entire team, you have to know where your advantages are. But also you will have to know what your weaknesses are. Therefore, when we're building a team, we need to know our advantages and our shortcomings. For business, we do something called SWOT analysis in English. In Spanish, it's called a FOTA analysis. The first step to building a successful team is to know yourself. Through knowing yourself, you can also know the advantages of your team. For this part, a lot of people say they would like to start their own company. They would like to have their own team and start their own business. And I would like to make money. In all reality, it's not as simple as it is. You have to know where your place is first and foremost. You have to know what your advantages are and what your weaknesses are, just like the race that we heard earlier. Like the king in the story, they need to know which of their horses is the strongest, and they need to know for the opponent which horse is the strongest, and then they can arrange who goes on which race. Only under these circumstances can they have an actual advantage to the race and win. In the same way, if you don't know within your market for your beauty salon what is your advantage against other people, and how you can attract your patrons, how can you possibly make money? Therefore, we usually use the SWOT analysis, or as I said earlier, the FOTA analysis. Through these analyses, we can know where our advantages are. So first, you have to know the actual situation of you as a person and your organization. Pay attention and make sure it is actually the real circumstances. Only through that will you be able to plan and know how to lead your team for your work. With this, we can also use it to analyze every individual in the team. Through that, you can find out where your specialty is. For this class, it'll be good if you have a few pieces of paper and a pen around. Okay, go grab a few pieces of paper right now. Okay. Since this is a recorded lesson, what we can do is you can pause the video real quick and go grab your pieces of paper and your pen. Then, once you're ready with the paper, we can continue with our class. So first of all, we need to do a SWOT analysis. There are 4 parts to this analysis. First, we have to find our advantages and our disadvantages. These are what we have from within. Because this is from within and internal, sometimes we don't even know ourselves. The biggest reason we don't know it because we're already too used to it. Therefore, a lot of times we need someone else to tell us for us to know about it. So the reason we don't really notice it is because we will say, oh, this is just who we are, or this is what we're like. So when we are trying to say this is what we're like, you should look deep inside and figure out what are the good and bad things about ourselves. The other two things we need to analyze is the opportunity and the threats. The opportunity and threats came externally. These are given to you from your environment. And when it is environmental, it is something you will have to discover. So for instance, take COVID-19 that we have right now. Some circumstances, some things will show. So for instance, some of these things may have not been there before, but they appeared this year. After the year 2020 and 2021, some of the opportunities that weren't there before are starting to appear. For instance, we've always think that when we eat from a restaurant, we have to eat out, but it seems like we can have them delivered and have them at home now. We may think we have always go to the department store, but now people are starting to go to more of those smaller shops or restaurants. People are choosing smaller shops or restaurants over larger shops because it may be safer that way. Therefore, this is where the new opportunities come from. And the threat is what I have mentioned before, COVID-19. And this is how new opportunities and threats appear. Therefore, as a leader, you need to know very clearly where you stand. So you need to know exactly where you stand right now. If you don't know where you stand, then the team you lead will have zero idea where they stand either, and with this, it'll turn into a huge mess. That simply will not work. So please take out a piece of white paper right now. Once you have your paper and pen ready, I would like you to draw a 3x3 chart. So now, after you have drawn your 3x3 chart, I would like you to think like a boss. I will teach you step by step once you have this 3x3 chart drawn. So with these parts that I would like you to actually do yourselves, please do it one by one with me. I'm a professional business consultant and I would like you to let me lead you. In order for me to lead you, I will need you to answer these questions truthfully. Only through that will you be able to allow me to give you the best advice and, in the long run, help you to plan the best plan for your company. During this video, you can watch this slowly and you can pause this anytime you would like. Also, it will be very helpful if you consider to take notes on a regular basis as well, because it would help you the most. Okay, please draw the chart now. It doesn't matter how good it looks, but please follow my instructions step by step after this. If you find yourself unable to fill in some of these boxes in the chart, that's okay, because all these big bosses spend a long time on these charts. And through doing these charts, sometimes they realize their success was actually an accident. When they become successful, a lot of times it is by chance. But after they write everything down and they look back, in the future, if they were to succeed, it will be a much more stable success. And you can be like that as well. In the beginning, you may find it a little bit hard to write them down, but that's okay. You can go ask your friend. You can ask them, hey, am I really like that? Or you can ask them, do you think I have these shortcomings? Do you think this is one of my strengths? So you can definitely go and ask your friends. Now, look around in your environment. If it's a little bit noisy, don't start it yet. I want you to find a quiet place so you can sit down, actually think about it, and write it down. You can even write a little bit right now, and then go back and write some more. Now we're going to start writing this. While I'm guiding you through writing all these, as soon as you have an idea or anything comes into your mind, write it down straight away. The first thing that pops into your mind should be written down. So on the upper left corner, I want you to write strength. And then I want you to think about a few main points. The first thing that I think you can write down is what kind of personal resources that you can connect with. which means this is a kind of resource that only you can access. For instance, I can be in touch with the entire community, and the entire community needs me as a person. So write it down and see what kind of resources that you can access as a person. Also, what are some of the strengths that other people, for instance, your boss, can see from you? You can ask your friends, which means for you and you only, they actually put a lot of emphasis on you and they can depend on you. Also, what are some of the accomplishments that you're proud of? I'm a beauty queen. I'm the prettiest. Or anything that allows you to be proud of yourself. Okay, so what else are the values you have that other people cannot show? That means only you can do it. And only you are able to see it. You're unique about it. This is your specialty. This is your strength. This is your advantage. Write it down. Try to make sure that these answers are the things that pop into your mind the first thing. And I want these adjectives to be something that you have truly think about. Okay, write your answers down. Next, on the top right corner, write down your weaknesses, which are things that you're weak at. These are something that's internal for you. What are some of the tasks that you will usually run away from and you don't want to do? You're also not confident enough to do it. You try to not do it. You do not want to do it. These are your weaknesses. What are some of the disadvantage or the shortcoming that people around you think about? They would think that these are something that you may not be able to do or you could possibly fail at it. These are your weakness. Also, with your education and your skill set that you're not confident with, if you can think of any of those, what is your weakest point? For instance, I'm not really good at math at all, or I'm really bad with languages. What are you really bad at? No matter what they are, these very weak parts are your weaknesses. Think about it. What other negative habits at work or in life that can stall your growth? For instance, back in the day, my father used to yell at me for something specific, or my mother used to think I was very lazy, or my teacher always think, whichever, maybe I'm a bad person. Okay, these are your weaknesses. Or, for instance, you're late all the time. People yell at you because your life is a mess, or you have bad temper, or you're very bad at handling your stress. These are all your weaknesses. Write them down. Also, after you're done writing them down, these are all internal. Now we're going to write something external. For something external, write it on the left side. On the left, I would like you to write down your opportunities. On the left, we would like to talk about your environment. It doesn't matter if it is around you, or the society, or the market. These are all opportunities that they can bring you. For instance, due to COVID-19, everyone's not going around, or no one will leave their house. Therefore, they would all be at home. When they're at home, you have a lot of new friends when you're at home. Is this one of your opportunities? So this is something that we can write down. Therefore, if you have any skills that can help you, for instance, when you're here, you've learned a lot of new Oriental or Eastern beauty techniques. This is a new opportunity that you can write down. Or you can go through the internet or other people to resell. For instance, this online lesson this time, this is another way for you to try to help yourself. Or, for instance, this time, you can maybe, in the East, these are the interesting things or special techniques that I can learn. And then you go online and search for them and find some new ways and techniques. And there, you would continue learning it. And you will use all these new opportunities within your work. So also, with your job and your career, are people also growing through learning new techniques? These can also be your new opportunities. So with these, How do you turn this market into your advantage? If there is something or a network that it can give you a good advice, what are the trends that you can see and you can use? What are your competitors doing, or what are some of the things your competitors cannot do? You can use their mistake as a lesson or an advantage for you. These are your opportunities. Also, on the bottom left corner, you can write down the threats. Think about it. If from the outside angle, what are the threats within your environment? What are some of the obstacles? For instance, do you have any coworkers or people who are in the same career who are trying to take your task or even your job? What if it has affected your job after they have appeared? Have they changed your job? For instance, maybe due to their push or if someone's trying to stop you from having these opportunities, these are also threats. Also, some of the change in techniques, have they changed your placement in the market? What are some of the changes that makes you want to join this lesson right now? Also, what are some of the weaknesses that can cause threats to appear? Write all of these down. Okay. So, you should have written down your threats right now. Think about it. Think about we have written down the opportunities earlier already. And then we've also written down your threats. Also, it'll include in the beginning your strength and your weaknesses. Therefore, you should have 4 different places that's written already. But originally we written down a 3x3 chart. Next, we are going to actually take a real quick pause and we're going to think about something. Pay attention. For every single part, we'll look at them again. Look at every single point. You have to be specific. Which means whatever you've written down, it has to be related to your reality. It would best be what's going on right now. It should match what's going on right now. If you need to, you can take a break. Take a break, and then you can come back and start again. If it's necessary, whatever you have written initially, allow someone else to read it and ask for their advice. And then you can take some of the good parts, keep them, or make them longer, elaborate on them. If they're not so good, then you can try to trim them out, and then you can try to change it. Okay, do a little bit of that now. Okay, now that we've finished the first part, you have seen we still have 4 boxes in the middle. These are the most important things. This is the essence. So these 4 things that were written down, it allow you to pay attention to your circumstances right now. Next, we're going to analyze what you're going to do in the future. A lot of times when we're doing the analyzation for the future and they realize, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do, or maybe this is not what I'm supposed to do. These boxes in the middle start from, with these boxes starting from the upper left, upper right, and then bottom left, bottom right, I want you to write down FODOFADA. What do all of these mean? What they mean is very, very important, but it is very special when you write them down. What it means is extremely important. I'm going to tell you something first. FO means something you need to pursue very strongly. So how come? Because it is a combination of your strength and your opportunity. So if you already have the advantage and there's an opportunity presented, you should seize the chance and actually try to maximize your results. So for instance, if your advantage is you have a great new partner, with your opportunity being you have a pretty good new technique. The new technique could very possibly be this lesson we're having right now. For instance, in order to combine these two, then we will try to use our new partner to heavily focus on this new Eastern specialty that we have right now. As for DO, it will be trying to strengthen your weaknesses. For instance, we will try to use this opportunity to strengthen our weakness and make a better way so we can do better in the future for our weaknesses. So, for instance, if our weakness is we do not have a lot of people in our team, and the opportunity we have right now is the fact that we're learning all these new Eastern techniques, then we should seize a chance to strengthen our weaknesses and shortcomings. Since we don't have enough people in our team, we should try to teach every single person in our team the new technique. This way we can seize a chance and work on our shortcomings and strengthen it. So the next one is FA. So since right now we do have some weaknesses, how do we try to combine our strength with the threat? So with all these strengths we have, how do we handle the threat? Well, we have great partners. For instance, our threat could be there is a large chain store right next to us. So what should we do if there's a large chain store right next to us? Then we should emphasize and build our character as an independent shop. With that being our character, we can go on a completely different path and separate ourselves in order to fight our competitors. And the last one is DA, which will be our weakness combined with a threat, maybe even a very large threat at times. So what should we do? So as we mentioned earlier, if our threat is having a very large store right next to us, and we really don't know what to do, what we can do the best is try to avoid them as much as possible. So if there's nowhere else to go, what we can do is to not do the same things as they do. That will be your last stop. If you have nowhere else to turn, don't do the same thing as your competitors. Okay, so what should you do? Since we already know that you have a weakness and your weakness is facing a threat right now, how do you avoid it? So with that being said, remember we mentioned FO earlier. What are your strengths? And when it is met up with your opportunity, how do you seize that opportunity and use your advantage to maximize your results? Try writing it down. Keep in mind that you may not only have one strength. You can have 1, 2, maybe even 3. And you also have maybe 1, 2, 3 different opportunities. When you try to mix and match them, you can have 3, maybe even up to 9 different combinations. Make sure you write all of them down because this will be your main attack strategy. With that being said, you want to make sure when you have a store or when you run a store, these are the main things you need to do. In the same way, on the DO section, where your weakness meets your opportunities, even though you know this is your weakness, how do we actually strengthen our weakness and therefore we can be able to seize this opportunity is the main thing we need to do. This is what we need to think about. In the same way, we may not only have 1, 2, or even 3 weaknesses. But when we have this much opportunity, we need to be able to seize it and try to make the most out of it. So in the same way, if we have this much strength, but we also have a lot of threats, what should we do? So since we have these strengths, is there any way we can try to overcome the threats? I must try to find a best way in order to try to lower the threat and avoid them through my strengths. Most importantly, when we have our weakness met up with our threats, how do we try to avoid it altogether? Beforehand, altogether. Pay extra attention because you want to avoid it beforehand. So once we've listed out our strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats, and then we have tried to put them all together, the most important thing that we need to do is to look at these information and cross-examine it. That is actually the most important thing we need to do. Because this is how you make a better business strategy. This will also allow us to have the best strategy when it comes to store management and risk management. If you have done this for yourself, I would like you to spend a little time and do the same thing and think for your team in the same way. So, for instance, just now you may have been doing it for yourself, but you haven't thought for your entire team or your company yet. Even though it would be a bit time consuming, but please make sure you do it. Also, even though you've done it already, please make sure you do this on a regular basis. Also, if you're an existing store, every single time you want to change something to your store, please use this and plan it again. If you have some colleagues that you're not currently working together with, please make sure you share this with them. This way they know what they can do in the future. Also, please keep in mind that this analysis may change over time. Because the environment changes, your strengths and weaknesses may not change straight away, but the opportunities and threats may change very often because of a change in the society, because of changes in the market, and most importantly, because the world is constantly changing, including the pandemic of the COVID-19. These changes can change the entire human society. So please make sure you keep the analysis you make today on in a good place because it is very important. Next, if you have been paying attention and you are doing this analysis, in a sense, your business is already on its way to success. Because the entire analysis, the photo analysis we had just done, has done the following things for you. First of all, have your weaknesses not been improved yet? Have you not made the most out of your strengths? Also, have you not seized the opportunity when you could? Have you not recognized your threats out there? More importantly, have you decided a possible way that your business is going to go? You can try to make the most out of being your aggressive attacks. You can try to advise to strengthen your weaknesses. And also, can you use your strength while you are facing threats? Also, you need to try your best to avoid the directions that may be incorrect. More importantly, you can see your team in the future and you can find the risks in the future ahead of time. Okay, so with all that we know right now, we can try to figure out what kind of team we want to build. There is an old Chinese saying as it's called using the end as a beginning. What does that mean? It means we're going to use every last day as if it is the beginning of today. I would like you to now take out a piece of paper and a pen. Take a few moments to calm down and take a few deep breaths to cool your mind and think. Take a few deep breaths. Calm your emotions. Okay. I would like you to think about where your business would be in 10 years, how nice it would be. Within or after 10 years, your business, how big would it be? How many employees will you have? How much money will they make you every month? How many stores will you have? How big are them? And once you have written everything down, and just write it on this piece of paper. This is your long-term goal. Are you all done? You need to be very practical and write them down. Because when you're writing this, you're describing what your future is going to be like. Because when you're describing these things, what it means is what you want your career to look like and how big you want it to be in the future. What we talk about how big your business is based on how much you want this business to be. You've already seen a long term goal now. Why are we doing a long term goal? Because no matter what circumstances we're under, we need to have a direction for where our business want to go. We should have a short-term goal, mid-term goal, and a long-term goal. A lot of times we'll have some people who are trying to make a strategy. We need to make a short, long, and medium-term goal. And they start with setting a short-term goal first. After they're done setting a short-term goal, and then they start setting a mid-term goal. What is the problem with this? So they will start planning by, okay, I would like to do this within a year. And they start thinking in a limited way. They will think, okay, this is what I have right now. So they're limited to everything that they can possibly imagine is started from only things they can see right now. So where they can see is I am standing right here, and they can only see as far as right in front of them. So when this is all they can see, where they can see themselves within a year, even if they try to set a midterm goal, which is maybe in 3 years, they're maybe only a mile ahead, barely. Therefore, even after you walk a mile per se, when you try to plan up to 5 years ahead, they are very limited within their imagination. This is a mistake that they make very easily. For instance, I'm a psychological counselor at times. When I'm counseling, I will try to ask them to think the same way. So for instance, if I ask you to think, what do I want you to think? For instance, if one day I'm going to leave this world, who do I wish to have around me? Will it be my husband? Will I have any children? How many grandchildren will I have? After you think like that, then you'll start to think, how many houses do I have I owned? Then I start to think, how much money do I have around me? How many good friends do I have? So when you think of something like this, it'll be a little bit more practical, more specific, because this is something you can actually think about that is close and related to you. So with that in mind, if you push the timeline 10 years ahead of that, in order to reach that, what do I have to do? What kind of friends do I need to make? So who do I have to marry? How do I have to run my business? When you think about it like that, isn't it a lot easier and more straightforward? In the same way, when we're trying to run a business, we can't only think from here and to the next step, and then we try to figure out the next step from when we reach it, because it would be a lot harder to plan practically. This is also why I am trying to ask you to envision what will it be like in 10 years. What would it be like in 5 years? Now that you've envisioned what it would look like in 10 years, let's envision what it would look like in 5 years. In order to reach what you have envisioned yourself being in 10 years, where do you have to be within 5 years? So, how far would you like to be? In order to reach that, how many employees will you need? In order to reach that in the 5th year, how much income will you have to generate? In order to generate that income, how many stores will you have to own? Write down and calculate all these information. And this will be your term goal. Is that a little bit easier? So we put the long-term goal a little bit shorter in and turn it into a midterm goal. So with that in mind, since we have our 5-year and 10-year goal up ahead, it will be a lot easier to figure out, so what kind of employees do we need right now if we would like to reach that goal in 5 years? In order to reach the 10-year goal, how big do you have to become within 5 years? And before that, what kind of employee do you have to get this year? Which also ties into what kind of shop do you have to have this year? In the same way, what type of merchandise do you need to prepare? And how much income do you need to achieve? This should tell you what kind of team you need. Write it down, and that would be your short term goal. Only when you have listed out the short term, long term, and mid-term goal all together, where you will know how you're supposed to build a team. Okay, we will now do a quick recap. We need to know our ability as a boss first. We need to know where our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats are. Therefore, you need to know how to better yourself. You'll have to know how to use your strengths and better your weaknesses, how to seize the opportunities, and how to face your threats. In addition, you have to be able to know what the strength of your team is, what their weaknesses are, where are the opportunities for the team, and what threats do your team face. With all that figured out, you will then know how to set a long-term goal, a mid-term goal, and a short-term goal. With all that being said and done, we will then know what are the next steps we should take. Now, we'll try to hire people. When we're trying to get people to work for our team, it is very important because the entire hire process is building the DNA for your team. The DNA for your team is very important. Your entire team, especially if you're trying to start up a beauty salon, what kind of people do you need? Of course, you will need someone who will help you succeed. But who will help you succeed? First of all, you need to find someone who believes in the same things as you do. Coming from the photo analysis you've done, you need a partner that can help you on your weaknesses. It will also help you maximize your strength, help you seize your opportunities, and help you change your threats. Good friends are not necessarily good work partners, but if good friends have to be together, they can't necessarily add on your strength and weakness. Please make sure that they listen to you during business. You may need a beauty counselor and an assistant and a few beauticians. The beauty counselor is very important. Sometimes you may be the beauty counselor yourself. It could be a secretary, but it can also possibly be done by a management. Therefore, you've heard us. As a matter of fact, no matter how small a beauty salon is, you will need professionals help you run it. They also need a professional manager. Aside from professional manager, you need someone who can consult. A management will be managing what's going on internally, and which means they can help you with the entire internal everyone to do what they need to do and make sure everyone feel like it is fair whatever job they have. You also need a consultant who can make all the customers feel they are treated very well. They're getting treated like they're a VIP. Why is a consultant so important? Because they have a lot of tasks. In the beginning, they may have to allow them to feel like I am feeling special. I am getting a completely different area and I can be away from the world outside. I feel like a princess when I'm here. When I'm here, I have received a professional treatment because I don't know what my face or my body is like that. But with the consultant, they allow me to get the best treatment. Therefore, here we can know that when we have a very good manager, a very good consultant, and we receive the very good front, next we need to have some professional beauticians. Therefore, now we know what kind of people we need to try and hire. All these people are necessary. And in the future lessons, we'll talk about these people and what roles and what jobs they will do. Trying to run a business and the kind of risk you'll run into, you and your weaknesses from your team, that would be that your risks are. It could be a management risk or financial risk or even facing the customer. We will talk about the financial management weakness in the future. This is actually a very lethal weakness. It could possibly dissolve your entire team. But as long as you plan for it beforehand, you will be able to avoid running into this weakness in the future. You don't have to worry. We will try to avoid this in the future. Within management, you must establish a very complete system. In other words, we need to know how to avoid our threats. Through the whole system, we need to know through risk management, how can we avoid it? When it comes to customer management, we want to make sure there is a standard operating procedure that they can follow. When environmental change could be possibly one of the threats, we should also be able to establish different process for it. Therefore, before you start a business, I want you to actually think beforehand. I want you to actually have a handbook for standard procedures that can be followed. And this is how we can avoid certain threats. Please remember that a business threat or risk could be anywhere. No matter how well an owner is prepared, you can still face unknown risks. When you face any downfalls, I want you to think, why did you enter this occupation to begin with? Think about what brought you into the industry initially. When you think about how excited you were to enter the industry, you start to think about how much wealth you can have in 10 years. You can envision maybe you want to have a large mansion by the sea with a luxury car, or maybe you're just happy to have all your family around you. No matter what, this is a dream that you would like to achieve through your career. But these may be just thoughts that are materialistic or mentally within our hearts. How much do they affect what you want to do and what role you want to play in life? How much do they make you long for living? Try to bring these dreams and passion to your team and allow them to understand where you come from, and then you will have an equally passionate team. Owning a business like this is a happy life. If you utilize what we have written down and thought about today on your team and your business, I believe you will have a much more successful business and, in terms, a better life. Thank you.